Welcome to the latest edition of UB on the Move. I'm Jeff Elliman, one of the co-founders of UrbanBound. And as a reminder, UrbanBound has built healthcare's leading relocation platform that's meant to drive down relocation costs while significantly improving employee experience. I am so excited today to have Donna Ecclestone as our guest. She's someone that I have long admired in the healthcare space, and I'm going to be asking her lots of questions and hopefully gaining lots of insight that you can use at your healthcare organization to improve the onboarding, employee retention, and relocation of all employees. So a little bit about Donna before we dive in and ask some questions, Donna. Donna is a content expert on provider onboarding. In 2009, she launched a centralized onboarding program with Duke's faculty practice that streamlined and standardized the onboarding efforts for clinical faculty and APPs across 16 departments. The program was recognized as a best practice model by the Joint Commission in 2016. The program expanded to include offboarding in 2018. She's had various leadership roles within AAPPR, a fantastic organization, and most recently co-developed the curriculum for their 2-day certificate program for onboarding and retention. She launched her own consulting business, which is already doing quite well. Lots of our clients are using Donna, and it's called Ecclestone Onboarding and Integration, which was launched within the last year. So Donna, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Love having you. So if you could start off today by just sharing a little bit about yourself and how you ended up working within the healthcare industry.
Yeah, well, the funny thing when you ask somebody that, how did you get involved with onboarding or how did you get involved in provider recruitment? People say, well, I didn't go to school for it. It's not a college course for that. But I fell into it, and it is something that I found a lot of passion with because I really liked the end result, which is to bring wonderful healthcare providers into my community and really service the needs of my community patients. So with recruitment, I actually started at Duke in 2017. I was just a provider recruiter and then grew to being the director of their medical staff recruitment team. And then I noticed that we had a big absent void that needed to be fulfilled. And that is that the recruitment team recruited the best for the best, but there wasn't a continuation of that relationship once they signed the contract. So I positioned and really got the data together and said, hey, leadership team, we really need to do something to create this continuation of this wonderful wonderful recruitment experience and continue it on to onboarding. So I was very blessed to have a leadership team that understood the importance. And we grew from a team of 2 initially to a team of 6 with onboarding and offboarding of faculty, APPs, and just really then was able to take that knowledge and that experience that we had and share it with the industry.
So I'm curious, you went from 2 to 6 people on your team.
Yes.
I believe most healthcare organizations are underinvesting in onboarding.
Absolutely.
How were you able to get Duke to invest more in improving onboarding experience going from 2 to 6 people on the team?
Yeah, it took time. I will tell you that, but it was data driven. And you were able to say, we could grow the program by this. We could show the results of customer service surveys saying what our team did and how it got better with our involvement, i.e. with not only creating a onboarding itinerary with the hiring entity to make sure that first week is a wonderful week and all planned out, to creating wonderful provider orientation experiences and getting engaged speakers and really showing the data of what we did mattered. And again, growing our services from onboarding to onboarding faculty members, to onboarding APPs, to offboarding faculty members, to offboarding APPs, and being that centralized point of knowledge of onboarding and offboarding activities throughout Duke.
Donna, what are like the key data points when you're making that business case internally? What are those?
Yeah. So, I think you got to find your starting point. And what we did initially to launch our program was we surveyed all the physicians that joined the organization a year and a half prior to the existence of my department and said, how was your experience with integration to your work environment, your interaction with the credentialing team, your interaction with the payer team. And we got, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, low results. And we were able to say, okay, let's figure out what's our goal for that year one? What's our goal for year two? Who do we need to get at the table? Half the problem was we had people that were doing onboarding at the 16 different departments that really didn't have a plan in place. They didn't know. We were able to get those people together in a room, and we created an onboarding committee. And that onboarding committee was so interesting because people are like, oh, I didn't know you had to do that step. Oh, I didn't know you had to do that. This is the new contact for this step. Oh, I didn't know you couldn't do this at this point. Oh, I didn't know you can get your badge at this point. So being able to get into a room and create a checklist that everybody agreed upon was a big step in the positive direction. And then engaging those people were a big step in the positive direction. And as well as, I learned by the hard way, you create an onboarding checklist and you give it to people and they're like, oh, that works great as a global document, but it doesn't work for me in Department of Surgery or anesthesiology or whatever. Mm-hmm. So get a tool in place that allows them to have what they need as well as what you need globally on a checklist.
So you created a lot of centralization when you were at Duke then. The 16 different departments, that must have been very challenging to streamline the entire onboarding journey for all employees.
Yes.
What are some of the biggest mistakes that you see organizations make when they're looking to actually centralize, whether it's relocation, onboarding, or any other HR initiatives?
Oh, yes. So one thing is relying on a paper document, because the only person that knows what the status of an onboarding paper document is the person that has the paper in front of them. So I would definitely encourage you to have an online platform. We actually
Do you have an online platform in mind? Is there a specific online platform that you use?
We started with we worked with a vendor. We had a homegrown recruitment and position management and recruitment database that we created at Duke. And we had a vendor work with us for that. But what I found out as a mistake is that the vendor will only give you what you ask for, and they don't really think about what your needs are for the future. And if we would use a vendor in the future, we had to pay. If we had any changes with our program, we had to pay extra. Because it wasn't future focused. So what we ended up doing was working with the vendor to create an onboarding platform that continued the position management, the recruitment, and then the onboarding activity as well as offboarding activity. But we switched from a vendor-based system and recreated it to an employee created system. We had an excellent programmer that took what the vendor did and enhanced it. And whatever changes we needed, we could go to an employee who could do the logic behind changing and didn't have to cost per change than the vendor. And they were able to not only address our needs presently, but our needs for the future.
So you saw over a period of a few years, your scores start to go up.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And you're able to go back to business leaders within Duke and say, look at the impact that we've made.
Right.
Has that been consistent over time?
Yes.
The scores just keep going up and to the right?
So the interesting thing, because I'm really a front runner in the onboarding space, we were doing it way before everybody else has been doing it. Actually, when I started onboarding, I couldn't call my department onboarding because people didn't know what that meant. I had to use provider integration. The leaders understood that more when I said that. So, and nobody told me what to report on. It wasn't that my leaders, who were very supportive, said, "Hey, Donna, we need this, this, and this." I told them what the goals would be. That a provider should be at this point of percentage of completion of onboarding activities by 60 days before they start. They should be at this percentage of onboarding activities within 30 days before they start. And I would report out to all the clinical department leaders saying, okay, you have Dr. Smith. He was supposed to be, he's 60 days before. He's under his goals for percentage of completion of onboarding activities. And it was interesting how it became a report of just getting the data out there to somebody proactively calling me from the department saying, "Hey, Donna, when's the next report coming? Because we want to show a good result to our leaders." And, onboarding's a team sport. That was not, I didn't do that report to do anything other than here's where we stood. But when I got those people to say, "Hey, we want to make sure that we're shining," it's not going to not only look good for their leaders, most importantly, it's going to help that new provider get integrated.
Did you track retention? I know there's a major challenge right now with retention within healthcare.
Right.
Do you believe that Duke Health has better retention, going back to the fact that you're doing a better job onboarding talent?
So I will be honest, we didn't track it in my department, but I can say that our efforts did improve those percentages. It wasn't just our team. It is also a team effort. But we were engaged with 30-day surveys. My team was. We were engaged in 60-day surveys. And I know just from the data that if you have a good onboarding program, your retention will be 50% higher. So yes, I agree that is a key aspect of why you should have a good program, a solid program, a centralized program.
A lot of times when we talk about onboarding, we talk about retention, and relocation comes up.
Yes.
I feel like that's one of the areas within healthcare where most organizations are dropping the ball. I know Duke is not. Duke has outsourced relocation. Right. And put a platform in place to streamline it and lower costs and improve the experience. But why do you think that so many organizations are still treating relocation as compensation and just giving that physician $15,000 and wishing him or her good luck with their move to X, Y, and Z location?
Right. Well, and I think
this has to change.
Yeah. I mean, I remember I was in recruitment and onboarding when we paid the vendor directly, and I had some very terrible situations happen when I was dealing with a national vendor, and I had this wonderful faculty member that we were just so lucky to get, who had a terrible move because the vendor went out of business in the midst of his move. And, I had to go through our corporate organization. I had to go through our attorneys. I had to go through all my point of contacts at the vendor was changing. They had broken pieces. We had to find a way to store their goods because the first vendor who was going out of business didn't have the storage capacity. And I had to just really be greatly involved. And that provider stayed. That provider had a nasty onboarding experience. But I think that if it wasn't because I was engaged with them and I helped them, that it could have been far worse. I think that, there was a time that Duke was like, okay, here's your, now that rules and regulations have changed and we can't pay the vendor directly, here is your money, physician, to do whatever you want. But I think that the astute leaders understand that relocation is a big stress on top of credentialing, on top of learning a new area, on top of assimilation. And if they can use vendors like yourself, where that pressure is off of the provider and that there is a customer service approach of not only making sure that they have a person that's helping them through the process, as well as letting them know about the area, letting them know about the community schooling, making sure that they're staying on budget. I think that's a win-win. And I don't know why people aren't doing it. I think that it's, people always say, well, it's the way we always did it. Well, that's not going to get you into the future. Opportunities, companies like yourself are going to take that initiative and go farther with and go and help with the retention. Because if that relocation goes sour, first impressions are lasting impressions, and those negative impressions just snowball, and that is hard to really overcome to make sure that that the relationship going forward is positive.
And that's what we're finding too, is that relocation is a logistical nightmare.
Yes.
And it's actually two of the top 5 most stressful life events. I'm moving to a new city or new area, and I'm starting a new job. And most healthcare organizations are not helping solve that problem. And everyone knows they're going through the stress.
Right.
But just giving someone money, whether it's $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, that's not solving the problem. It's about having the right resources and right support to make relocation actually a joyful experience versus the stress and anxiety that comes with it. So we're on a mission to help solve that for hundreds of organizations.
Well, and what you said, Jeff, and I don't mean to interrupt, but you said that a lot of people understand that relocation is stressful. I think a lot of people forget how stressful relocation is. And I think a lot of people also forget how hard it is to be new. Some people might be interacting with leaders that have been with the company for 20, 25 years. They haven't moved to the new area. They haven't really made a big change. They've been familiar with the organization and familiar with the community for a long time. And I think that the onboarding executives and professionals understand how hard it is to be new. And they're the ones that can be compassionate. They can be the navigator as far as, making sure that the new provider is locked in and knows what's going on, where to get things for their needs, who's who in the organization, what cultural amenities are there, what acronyms the organization uses, those kind of things.
And that's where I feel that technology is critical, because having one centralized platform to host everything within makes it scalable. Whether you're going to relocate 20 providers or 2,000 providers, it should be able to scale with the organization if you have the right platform in place.
Right.
I want to talk to you a little bit more about the hiring that you saw during your time at Duke or anywhere in your career,
right?
Because things are changing right now. But you've got a great onboarding program. You've got a great relocation program. What are other things that you've seen that helps an organization stand out from the competition to win this war for talent?
Yeah, and I think that staffing is a big concern with healthcare leaders. So it used to be when I was in recruitment, the leaders thought that you could just wave the Duke flag and people would be coming. And right now it's very competitive. So making sure that the organization has accurate job descriptions, that everybody's on the same page as far as knowing what to say and how to make sure that what you are offering is competitive in salary, making sure that people feel like that there is a need for this new person coming in, and what opportunities for the future is that hire for the organization. I mean, as far as growing programs or growing services, I think that there is such a wonderful now network of in-house recruiters and in-house onboarders that share common practices and share opportunities that really make sure that each person that's presenting recruitment position is presenting their community in the best light possible, but also know that not everybody's going to like what they have to offer. And that's okay. We want the people that want our community, want our position, and want to stay.
So community is a key word. And
Yes.
you could be the best healthcare system,
Right.
but if people need to move to a community they don't want to live in, they're not going to take the job. What are some of the things that you've done to get people excited about moving to a specific community?
I think that one of the things that people are concerned about are, what's available for them outside of work, not only inside, obviously the job, but outside of work, schools, childcare. And one of the things with the onboarding that's so important is mentorships. And those mentorships can be not only somebody who is in the same field, but could be somebody who has been there and done that a year ago, or has similar number of kids or age kids, or from the same medical school or residency. And I do think that recruiters are trying to make those connections earlier. And I do think that that's a positive. I also think that some of the recruiters are including the onboarding people in the interviews. And I think that that's a wonderful thing, because you are highlighting, this is not a one and done. It's not like recruitment's going to say, all right, we're done with you. Good luck. You have somebody who's going to be partnering with you, not only through your first day, your first month, your first year, but through your tenure. I had lots of people that would contact us and say, Donna, I don't know who can answer this question, but I know that if I call you, you can get me the person that can answer the question. And that could be, they could have been working with me 3 years ago. So it's
that's priceless.
Connection.
I love that.
Yeah, it's connection. That human connection, that go-to person, that person that can be there on the phone is priceless. And you need to balance both.
I want to paint the picture of a healthcare organization that does a great job attracting talent.
Yes.
They have an amazing onboarding program. They've got a world-class relocation experience for these providers. But at the end of the day, they still have high turnover. Why do you think that so many healthcare professionals are leaving the industry right now?
Yeah. I think a combination. I think COVID burnt a lot of people out. I think that, the older generation of providers are just kind of feeling that they don't want to be employed anymore. A lot of healthcare organizations are employing physicians, and those private practitioners that were by themselves don't feel comfortable in an employed arena. I think that the healthcare organizations the merges and the acquisitions might scare a lot of people, because change is concerning. But I do think that those programs that have a mentorship, that have state interviews, that have leadership that does roundings, that has involved, engaged, open communication within the organization, those are where the people are staying. And I feel like that is, if you have that, that's the goal.
So right now you're on a new adventure. You've started your own business, helping lots of different organizations improve their onboarding experience, retention. Can you walk us through one thing that you know now that you wish you knew when you first made the decision to go off and start your own company?
Wow. I do think that it takes time to grow a business. And I didn't realize how long it took, but that's okay. That's part of the game. I am so appreciative of networking. One of the things that I got engaged with early in my career is AAPPR, the Association for Advancing Physician and Provider Recruitment. I was a board member, as you mentioned. I was on the education committee. I got really engaged, and those members helped me with my business growth, which is wonderful. Those connections are very just strategically important. I'm seeing all these authors and that have blog posts and podcasts, and I wish that I did that earlier. So I'm a little late to that ball game.
But it's never too late.
Never too late. That's true. That's never too late. But it's interesting to go to speak with an organization that thinks they have an onboarding program and really needs to expand it. They have more of an orientation program where it's more paperwork based or short-lived. It's like 6 months and they're done. You're on.
Would you say that's the difference between orientation and onboarding? What would be the difference between orientation and onboarding?
So, and I appreciate you saying that. So orientation is short term. It's HR based. It's tactical. It's paperwork focused. Onboarding starts at that first phone call, and it is relationship forming. It is something that is done to make sure that the mission, vision, values, culture, and all those core components are shared, and making sure that those connections are made, that provider feels like that interaction is positive, first impression, lasting impression, and that person who is talking to them really cares about them, really is focused on not only their present and all the things they're going through with credentialing, but their future with the organization. That's the difference. And I do think that, if you don't, the first year in a position you're still learning. Those profession or those organizations that are 6 months and stopping, you're missing out, because those critical next 7 months to 12 months are so important. And those people are still getting solicitations to go somewhere else. You need to keep those communication lines open. Coffees with them, emails with them. How's it going? Those leaders that, address people by name, or, say high praise to people, or write a note to them on their first day. Those are the organizations that are stellar. And that those leaders that are engaged with their orientation programs, that is a great step in the positive direction.
So at UrbanBound, we're always thinking about new ideas and looking at new technologies out there. And my final question for you today is, if you had to give a TED Talk on a topic that you're really passionate about, what would that be? And then what would be some of the key points that you would cover in that TED Talk?
I would definitely talk about onboarding and offboarding, and the benefits of that, of, retention and making sure efficiency and long-term just commitment of the individual to the organization, and happiness of the family in the community, and making sure that you are continually having those conversations with the provider to make sure that things are going well. And if things are going awry, making sure that you are responding to them and following up with them on those issues, so they know that people are listening. And the offboarding, I think that people forget how important proper offboarding is, because even though they are leaving, one, they might come back. if they have a positive experience, and it might not be their choice to leave. There might be a sick family member and they don't want to leave, but they had to. They're still a representative of the organization. So, if they are talking to colleagues and they had a negative experience, they could share that. And if you're trying to advertise for their position, that could be something that's negatively heard and, shared. And the other thing is risk. You want to make sure that you have your offboarding experience is risk averse, focused on low risk for your patients, low risk for your provider that's leaving, and low risk for your organization.
I feel like that TED Talk would do very well. I read a Gallup poll recently that 12% of healthcare organizations think they actually do a good job when it comes to onboarding and offboarding.
Right.
That's pretty scary.
Right.
So a lot of opportunity, obviously, for you to come in and consult and make an impact. And you definitely made a big impact today. We love having you as a guest on our podcast and look forward to having you as a guest in the future. Thank you so much, Donna.
Thank you.